Hi guys, I'm Kate from the YouTube channel GirlReading, and I've spent the past year pining for season 2 of Stranger Things to start. Whether or not you've watched the show, you're probably at least somewhat familiar with Stranger Things, but if not, very simply put, it is a Netflix original series that premiered in 2016, and it is set in a small town in America and basically follows the disappearance of a young boy and the strange circumstances in which his mother, the chief of police, and his misfit group of friends have to face in order to get him back. There are secrets and superpowers and murder alongside family, friendship, love, and humour, and it is basically a total emotional rollercoaster. So if you're like me, desperately waiting for the next series to start, or you're watching this having already watched it and you're not entirely sure what to do with yourself anymore, today I thought I would share with you some bookish recommendations that hopefully may help to fill that Stranger Things hole in your heart, at least until you inevitably decide to binge watch it from season 1 all over again. I have a somewhat eclectic mix of books to recommend today, from young adult to graphic novels, but each recommendation I do have is based off one or more specific element of Stranger Things, so hopefully I'll have something in here that contains an aspect of the show that you especially love. My first recommendation is based on the upside down alternate reality aspect of Stranger Things, and that is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This follows Jason Dessen, who is a father, a husband, and a scientist, as his world is turned completely upside down. As one night after a night out, Jason is followed home and knocked unconscious. When he is woken up by a masked stranger, he finds himself in his life, but a life that has completely changed. He is now a celebrated genius instead of a teacher, his wife is not his wife, and his son was never born. We follow Jason as he tries to untangle the mess he has found himself in, whilst also trying to work out which of these worlds is real, and trying to get back to the world he once knew. Dark Matter plays with the idea of an alternate reality in a way that will totally mess with your mind and make you question and think about everything your life is and everything it could have been and all the what ifs of life. It's basically perfect if you were looking for a more scientific, realistic explanation of the possibility of alternate universes and the upside down. My next recommendation is one that I genuinely, the entire time whilst reading it, couldn't stop thinking about how perfect it would be for fans of Stranger Things, and that is The Call by Peadar O'Gillan. This is a young adult novel set in an island that has been cut off from the rest of the world and is basically a place where at any moment children and teenagers are at risk of being called and disappearing into a horrific otherworld in which they have to spend the entire day fighting for their lives against She, who are essentially these kind of evil fairies. And this basically follows a group of teens at a boarding school where they're being trained to fight to survive in this ruthless otherworld, despite the fact that the majority of the people that do end up being called are either murdered whilst there, or they return extremely injured or mutilated in a multitude of ways. This is bizarre and creepy and gruesome and surprisingly disturbing for a young adult book, and honestly, if this and the show hadn't have been released around the same time, I would have thought one had inspired the other, and that's not because they're exactly the same, but they both do have very similar elements to them. If you enjoyed the show, I am certain you will love this, and if you enjoyed this, I'm also certain that you will really enjoy the show. If the 80s setting and group of badass kids fighting monsters is what sucked you into Stranger Things, then I 110% recommend Paper Girls, which is a graphic novel following 4 12-year-old paper girls on the morning after Halloween in 1988, when they essentially encounter an alien invasion. There's time travel, vanishing townspeople, spacecrafts, these giant flying dinosaur bird kind of things. The art style and colours in this are absolutely gorgeous. You're basically dropped right into the action from the first page. It's incredibly fast paced, plus it is the start of an ongoing series, so although you will probably get through this quite quickly, there are currently 3 volumes out with more to come. For those of you looking to read something with magic and elements similar to Eleven's powers, I have Gilded Cage by Vic James. This is a YA novel set in a modern day Britain in which the magic users control everything from wealth to power to politics and the people. If you are not one of the magical elite, the ultimate 1%ers, then you owe them 10 years of your service. If you do those years when you are old, you'll never get through them, but if you do them when you are young, you'll never get over them. This follows 2 families that have absolutely nothing in common except that they each have 3 children, but after one family enters the service of the other, their destinies begin to entwine. This is another one that is the start of a series, so you'll definitely be able to get your alternate reality, special powers, Stranger Things fix from it for quite a while. And for my last Stranger Things inspired book recommendation, I couldn't not mention It by Stephen King. It follows a gang of kids investigating a horrifying force terrorizing their town. It is set in the 80s, it is dark, it is twisted, even more so than Stranger Things, and I'm gonna be honest, I have not watched nor have I read it by Stephen King because I have enough trouble sleeping as it is. I have seen and heard it being compared to Stranger Things so many times. Even I can't deny the similarities between the two stories. Plus, the new movie adaptation has just been released, giving you even more opportunities to get your Stranger Things fix. So those are the books that I would most definitely recommend to any Stranger Things fan looking to fill that Stranger Things void, and I really hope that I have mentioned something that has intrigued you. If so, I would absolutely love to know which ones. If you happen to have any Stranger Things inspired recommendations yourself, whether that be graphic novels or books or TV shows or movies or anything, please leave them in the comments because I would very much appreciate them, and I'm sure somebody else would too. Lastly, I wanted to say thank you so much to Book Break for having me, and I hope you're all having the most wonderful day. Bye!